In Western cultures, there is a belief that a certain day brings bad luck. Is this true? Join me now as we talk about Friday the 13th. In the Gregorian calendar, when the 13th day of the month falls on a Friday, it is called Friday the 13th. This calendar event happens at least once up to thrice a solar year, be it a common year or a leap year. For example, 2022 has only one Friday the 13th, but 2023 and 2024 will each have two Fridays the 13th. In 2023, Friday the 13th happens in January and the next in October, while in 2024 it occurs in September and then in December. Friday the 13th occurs in any month that begins on a Sunday. There is no regularity or expected sequence in the months, except perhaps when we look at a 400-year cycle. So long as the first day of any month is a Sunday, expect that its 13th will be a Friday. When did this fear of Friday the 13th start? Let's try to look back at some belief systems in the West. For the Scandinavians or North Germanic peoples, there was a folklore that 12 gods had a dinner gathering in Valhalla, which is the anglicized name for the Old Norse Valhall, or majestic hall of the slain in Asgard, presided over by their god named Odin. The god of mischief named Loki was not invited to this gathering, yet he arrived as the 13th diner. In retaliation, he tricked the blind god named Thor to shoot another god named Balder with a mistletoe-tipped arrow, causing the latter's death and making the whole earth turn dark. It was both a great tragedy to the pantheon of gods known as Aesir, and a harbinger of a great battle known as Ragnarok, which was the Old Norse for twilight of the gods, a time when great figures died, natural disasters happened, and the world was submerged in water. In 700 BCE, an ancient Greek poet named Hesiod wrote a farmer's almanac named Works and Days. Avoid the 13th of the waxing month for beginning to sow. It was just right after the calends and perhaps planted the fear of the number 13. The story of Jesus' Last Supper had 12 disciples, making them 13 in all, who were present in the upper room, which was a place in Mount Zion in Jerusalem on the 13th of Nisan, Maundy Thursday, the night before his crucifixion on Good Friday. Judas Iscariot's kiss in the Garden of Gethsemane had been the mark of betrayal. Though unsubstantiated, there are still those who believe that Eve gave Adam the fruit from the tree of knowledge, and that Cain killed his brother Abel on the 13th. Even the 14th century AD scribe named Geoffrey Chaucer described and propagated through his writings that Friday was a day to be dreaded, for it tended to attack bad luck. Then the 19th century AD came. There was a character in the 1834 French play entitled Le Finet de Griboure who said that he was born on a Friday the 13th, from which came all of his misfortunes. Gioacchino Antonio Rossini, a famous Italian composer, was documented to have died on Friday the 13th of November 1868. In both instances, birth and death had been associated with the absence of luck. Worse, people began associating death with bad luck, when death is but a part of the cycle of life. In the late 19th century AD, a New Yorker named Captain William Fowler sought to remove the stigma surrounding the number 13 by founding an exclusive society called the 13 Club. This group dined regularly on the 13th day of the month in room 13 of the Knickerbocker Cottage owned by him from 1863 to 1883. Before sitting down for a 13-course dinner, its members would pass under a ladder and a banner that reads in Latin, Morituri te salutamus, meaning, those of us who are about to die salute you. Then, in 1907, Thomas William Lawson published a novel entitled Friday the 13th, which only served to popularize the superstition because a character in it, an unscrupulous New York City stockbroker, took advantage of that superstition by creating a Wall Street panic on a Friday the 13th and made a killing on the market. In Spain and other Spanish-speaking nations, it is Tuesday the 13th that is considered a day of bad luck. This is known as Martes 13. In the Philippines, there is a place in Cavite called Trece Martires. It was here where 13 martyrs were executed by the Spanish colonizers. The early Greeks also considered Tuesday the 13th an unlucky day, although it was a day dedicated to the god of war named Ares. The fall of Constantinople occurred twice. First was in 1204, when Constantinople fell to the Fourth Crusade, and the second in 1453 to the Ottomans. On October 13, 1307, a Friday too, the officers of King Philip IV of France arrested hundreds of the Knights Templar, which was a powerful religious and military order formed on the Temple Mount, Haram al-Sharif, in 1118 AD for the defense of the Holy Land, Jerusalem. Imprisoned on trumped-up charges of various illegal activities and with the backing of the Catholic Pope Clement V, although the real reason was that the king terribly wanted access to their financial resources to avoid paying off his huge debt to them. Many Templars were arrested, their properties taken, medieval torture was used to acquire confessions, and finally executed by burning at the stake. Some cite the date and number of knights executed that day as related to the number 13, but those accounts were quite murky. Nevertheless, King Philip, in his desire to humiliate the Knights Templar, decided to have its Grand Master Jacques de Molay admit to heresy at a large public gathering. Instead of succumbing to the king's order, Jacques used that forum to apologize to the people and explain what happened to the knights. His execution was held, but his final words were used to curse both the king and the pope that they would be dead before the year's end, which did happen, and so added more clout to the belief on Friday the 13th being a bad day. For the Greeks, the third day of the week, the first day being Sunday, is called Treaty. After all, they believe that bad luck comes in threes. In England, there is a St. Brice's Day massacre, which was a planned mass killing of all Danes on November 13, 1002, ordered by King Aethelred the Unready, who was fearing for his life. In England too, Friday is also known as a Hangman's Day. It is the day when prisoners are typically given their respective hanging sentences. In the Wiccan belief system, the number 13 has been associated with the divine feminine or goddess, which is the biggest threat to the male-dominated Christian religion. No wonder the aversion to this number became prevalent only from the 10th century AD onwards. The divine feminine or goddess celebrates 13 moon cycles per year. Women with uteruses also experience, on the average, 13 menstrual cycles. Venus, the goddess, represents a culture that honors female deities. She is known for love, charm, and sexuality, yet her image has been made to be feared. In Italy, 13 is lucky. However, due to its Americanization, young people today think of that number as unlucky. Before the Americans pestered Italian culture, the number 17 is the one that is considered unlucky. It is thought of that this originated from the way the number 17 is written in Roman numerals. It is XVII. If these letters are shuffled, the word Vixi or VIXI will be formed. This means I have lived, and therefore implies death. Again, death has been associated with bad luck. Curiously, there is a 2000 American parody film entitled Shriek, Hai Impegni Venerdì 13, or Shriek if you know what I did last Friday the 13th. According to the Stress Management Center and Phobia Institute of North Carolina in the USA, so many people are afraid of Friday the 13th. They refuse to get out of bed, do business, take flights, or simply avoid going about their normal routines. Surveys, however, disprove any correlation between Friday the 13th and the rate of accidents. On the contrary, the Dutch Center for Insurance Statistics claim the opposite, in that indeed fewer accidents and reports of crimes happen in the Netherlands on Friday the 13th, and justifies the possibility to the cautiousness of its peoples on that day. In Finland, a consortium of governmental and non-governmental organizations promotes a National Accident Day on a Friday the 13th since 1995 to raise public awareness on automotive safety. An American president, no less, Franklin D. Roosevelt, wrote his biographer John Gunther was moderately superstitious. Roosevelt hated Friday the 13th and would never start an important trip on that day or sit down with 13 at dinner. It was said that the same fear was suffered by another American president named Herbert Hoover. A popular horror movie series entitled Friday the 13th, first released in 1980, introduced the world to a hockey mask-wearing serial killer named Jason. This spawned comics, novellas, video games, merchandise, costumes, and even a Filipino superficial occult animated series on Netflix entitled Trece. Out of this, there are three known fears pertaining to Friday the 13th. While in Western cultures, historically, the preceding number 12 is considered complete. Take it from the 12 days of Christmas, 12 day gods of Olympus, and 12 tribes of Israel. The succeeding 13 is not. It is thought of as a transgression or going beyond completeness. Based on historical accounts, the number 13 has been considered a sign or omen of bad luck. Even astrology does not have the number 12. Ophiuchus is the 13th constellation, but the zodiac signs remain at 12. In divination, the Death Tarot card is the 13th. Numerology, however, tells us a different meaning to the number 13. That's for another day. Public places do not have or avoid the number 13. Many airlines do not have a row 13. Hotels do not have a room numbered 13. There are countries and cities that do not have addresses with the number 13. Many buildings, both public and private, do not have a 13th floor. Even athletes are hard-pressed to wear a 13 on their jerseys. In Paris, France, however, one can employ a quatorzième, who is a professional 14th guest, to remove the alleged bad luck of the number 13. The ancient Code of Hammurabi is reported to have omitted, perhaps unintentionally, a 13th law from its list. This omission in the first rulebook of the 18th century BCE brought the notion that the number 13 means bad luck, death, or disaster. The first of the phobias is triskaidekaphobia. It refers to the fear of the number 13. To add to this fear, the asteroid 99942 will make its closest encounter with our planet Earth on April 13, 2029, a Friday. The second phobia is paraskavedekatriaphobia, coined by Dr. Donald E. Dose, an American psychotherapist specializing in phobias and stress management. It refers to people who are made uncomfortable or anxious by Friday the 13th. The third phobia is phrygatriskaidekaphobia. It refers to the irrational fear of Friday the 13th. It is a 99-year-old word made up of a combination of the Norse and Greek root words for Friday, Frishadagr, 13, Decatreis, and fear, phobia. In recent times, traumatic events occurred on Friday the 13th. These include the German bombing of Buckingham Palace, which was the official London residence of the reigning British monarch in September of 1940. The murder of an American citizen named Catherine Susan Kitty Genovese, which triggered a bystander effect and prompted the emergency number 911 system in Queens, New York in March of 1964. The cyclone that killed more than 300,000 people in Bangladesh in November of 1970. The disappearance of a Chilean Air Force plane in the Andes Mountains in October of 1972. The Friday the 13th virus that caused a widespread computer crash, infecting hundreds of IBM computers in England in January of 1989. The Black Friday fires in Australia. The death of American hip-hop rapper Tupac Shakur in a Las Vegas, Nevada drive-by shooting in September of 1996. And the crash of the Costa Concordia cruise ship off the coast of Italy in January of 2012. While these events may have indeed happened on Fridays the 13th, they do not discount the possibility and number of other traumatic events that may have happened on other days. So, we go back to the same question. Is Friday the 13th really unlucky? No, it is not. This belief in Western cultures was simply passed on by tradition, but certainly, Friday the 13th is just like any other day of the year. So there goes our presentation, Friday the 13th. Again, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, watch, like, and share the videos of the Nixtradamus channel. Click the bell for notifications and updates. Till next, light, love, and life. Namaste.